One overlooked safety protocol. One moment of routine work. That's all it took to turn ordinary shifts into the 6 most disturbing workplace deaths ever documented. These aren't just tragic accidents from dangerous jobs. They're stark reminders that in any workplace, the smallest oversight can demand the ultimate price. It was March 8th, 2018, when 31-year-old Lainey Price walked into the cold storage distribution facility, assigned to the corridor outside the engine room. Detail-oriented and steady under pressure, she was known for following procedures and stepping in when crews needed a clear head. Her colleagues respected her calm approach to emergency situations. On the floor were a 44-year-old refrigeration technician who favored checklists, a 39-year-old safety coordinator who lived by the manual, and a 28-year-old warehouse lead who kept pallets moving efficiently. The system had problems. A hand valve near the high-pressure receiver had a packing leak on the backlog. Replacement parts were on order. One fixed ammonia detector in the engine room was in bypass for calibration, so a portable meter served as backup. The nearest self-contained breathing apparatus sat in a cabinet 80 feet from the door, with plastic totes stacked too close for quick access. A recent change had moved the emergency shutdown map to a new panel. Not everyone had walked through the update. Wind pushed from the engine room toward the interior dock corridor when the bay doors were open. The release began with a white plume from a valve bonnet on a liquid line, riding a rising hiss that dropped visibility near the floor. The technician's portable alarm spiked, and he moved workers toward muster. Lainey pulled the nearest alarm station and headed for the manual shutdown panel inside the corridor to close upstream valves. Vapor drifted into the dock lane, and the warehouse lead signaled crews to move upwind. The safety coordinator called in a hazardous release and began coordinating the response. The cabinet latch for the manual shutdown stuck, misaligned just enough to steal precious seconds. Frost spread along the valve body and nearby piping, creating hazardous conditions. A second detector at the dock threshold was activated. The corridor filled with harsh air that burned exposed skin and airways. Without a respirator, every step closer to the panel cut the exposure margin. The plume thickened, and movement became increasingly difficult. Lainey collapsed in the corridor between the engine room door and the shutdown controls, short of the panel by a critical distance. The technician grabbed the breathing apparatus and advanced to the doorway for a rescue attempt. Concentrations drove him back. They waited for hazmat with the area isolated. Fire crews arrived, established hot and cold zones, made an entry under air, and confirmed the manual shutdown while a remote upstream valve was closed. Ventilation fans pulled the cloud out as detectors trended down. Lainey was brought to the cold zone, where responders provided high-flow oxygen and advanced life support. Clinical findings documented acute inhalation injury from anhydrous ammonia, with airway edema and hypoxia that proved fatal. The distance, wind direction, stuck latch, and lack of immediate respiratory protection combined against her. Investigation identified critical failures: detector on bypass without backup coverage, blocked access to breathing gear, manual-only shutdown too far from the hazard, unresolved valve leak, and bay doors directing releases toward occupied areas. Corrective actions included redundant fixed detection, relocated breathing apparatus with clear access, remotely actuated shutdowns with mapped pull stations, priority repairs for pressure leaks, and door management rules. Crews began drilling ammonia-specific scenarios with upwind egress routes, valve trains were retagged for clarity, and pre-incident plans with valve maps were provided to local responders. It was May 22, 2016, when 42-year-old Rebecca Sloan began her shift on the facade restoration scaffold of a downtown commercial building. An experienced restoration specialist with 15 years in the trade, Rebecca was known for her meticulous craftsmanship and steady nerves working at height. Her colleagues respected her expertise in historical building preservation and her calm approach to complex restoration challenges. The morning briefing was cut short to take advantage of clearing weather conditions. Strong winds were forecasted for later, creating urgency to complete critical work. Jordan Hale, an eager 24-year-old apprentice, assisted Rebecca with material counts and tool organization. Safety consultant Priya Shah, a thorough 51-year-old professional, was scheduled for midday inspection. Lewis Grant, the cautious 33-year-old hoist operator, maintained his position near the material lift, known for calling out deck movements. The scaffold system showed several concerning deficiencies. A mid-rail section and cross brace were missing from a corner bay, awaiting delayed replacement parts. The gap created a dangerous opening in the fall protection system at a critical location where workers frequently passed. Rebecca wore her safety harness, but remained unconnected to any tie-off point while moving along the deck to inspect repointing work. Available overhead anchor points went unused as she focused on examining facade joints near the mast tie connection. A temporary power cable ran across the walking surface, secured with tape that had begun lifting due to foot traffic. The raised edge created a trip hazard that had been noted but not corrected. The material hoist hatch remained open for deliveries. Deck planks near the opening had been repositioned but were not properly secured with safety pins. Rebecca advanced along the outer deck toward the corner bay, where the missing mid-rail created an unprotected edge. Her boot contacted the lifted power cable tape, causing her to adjust stance and shift weight onto the loose plank near the hoist opening. The unsecured plank shifted laterally under her weight. As she attempted to regain balance with a heel-to-toe step, the movement created a gap in the decking. A coil of sling line briefly caught her foot before releasing, adding momentum toward the unprotected edge. Without the missing mid-rail to arrest her lateral motion, and no active tie-off connection, Rebecca cleared the guard height and fell approximately 28 feet. During descent, she struck a lower scaffold ledger, causing rotation before impacting the concrete slab near the hoist mast base. Co-workers immediately initiated emergency calls while clearing the hoist area and retrieving trauma response equipment. The scaffold deck was secured with caution tape to prevent further incidents and maintain clear access for emergency responders. Emergency medical services arrived to find non-survivable blunt force trauma with severe head and chest injuries. The impact forces from the 28-foot fall onto concrete had caused injuries incompatible with life. Site operations ceased immediately. The scaffold system was tagged out and later rebuilt with full guardrail systems, properly pinned planking, and corrected cross-bracing. The investigation cited multiple contributing factors: lack of tie-off during movement, missing mid-rail protection, unsecured deck planks, and inadequate housekeeping procedures. Implemented controls included mandatory tie-off during all deck movement, daily plank pin verification, proper cable routing away from walkways, and specific wind hold criteria. A safety brief was conducted citywide for similar projects, emphasizing fall protection requirements at hoist interfaces. It was August 14, 2018, when 31-year-old Cassie Donovan arrived for her evening shift at the regional distribution warehouse. A dedicated logistics coordinator with 7 years of experience, Cassie was known for her precise attention to loading procedures and ability to maintain efficiency under pressure. Her methodical approach earned respect from colleagues. Andre Lewis, a 27-year-old forklift operator praised for his precise approach speeds, was assigned to door 12. Ruth Park, a direct 45-year-old yard coordinator, managed staging multiple trailers simultaneously. Eli Roberts, a fast-paced 22-year-old temporary worker, focused on stacking pallets inside the trailer with checklist-driven precision. Several mechanical issues created dangerous conditions at door 12. The vehicle restraint system displayed "not engaged," with an open maintenance ticket unaddressed. The hydraulic dock leveler suffered from a slow bleed that caused the lip to settle unpredictably under load, creating unstable gaps. Wheel chocks remained stored rather than deployed under trailer wheels. The yard coordinator managed multiple trailer movements, prioritizing speed over securing procedures. Lighting at the threshold was compromised by a burned-out fixture, creating shadows that obscured the critical gap area between dock and trailer. Radio traffic increased as dispatch called for expedited loading to meet delivery deadlines. The compressed turnaround times added pressure to the complex operation, involving multiple personnel and moving equipment in a confined space. Cassie positioned herself at the dock edge to visually confirm proper alignment between the trailer bed and dock lip. This manual verification was standard when mechanical indicators failed to provide reliable feedback about trailer positioning and safety status. Eli moved to the trailer front to square the first pallet, while Andre approached slowly with his forklift. The yard coordinator's tractor contacted the trailer during final positioning, causing the unsecured trailer to inch forward without restraints or chocks to prevent movement. The gap between dock face and trailer widened as the vehicle drifted. The compromised leveler lip partially retracted due to hydraulic bleed, creating an uneven transition zone. Cassie found herself in the pinch zone as the trailer moved unpredictably back and forth. Andre's forklift mast approached the threshold, with obstructed sight lines due to load height and shadowed lighting. The trailer rolled back toward the dock with a rebound motion, trapping Cassie between the trailer's rear frame and solid dock edge with crushing force. Andre immediately stopped and reversed his forklift. The leveler dropped further due to hydraulic failure, complicating extraction from the dangerous pinch point. The compression forces were instantaneous and severe, causing immediate trauma. Emergency response was called immediately. Nearby loading bays were halted and dock plates raised to prevent additional trailer movement. First aid responders applied oxygen while awaiting emergency medical services arrival. Emergency medical personnel performed advanced life support, but clinical findings revealed fatal crush injuries to the chest and pelvis with internal hemorrhaging. The compression forces between the heavy trailer and immovable dock structure caused non-survivable trauma. The facility underwent comprehensive safety upgrades. All docks were retrofitted with functioning vehicle restraint systems and mandatory wheel chock procedures. Interlocked green and red light systems provided clear visual confirmation of trailer security. New procedures established dedicated spotter positions during trailer alignment. Threshold lighting was repaired and upgraded throughout the facility. A dock hazard audit program was implemented with weekly inspections and documented sign-offs. It was February 18, 2017, when 26-year-old Holly Barrett began her shift at the food processing facility during a critical sanitation cycle. Known for her thorough attention to cleanliness standards, Holly had worked as a sanitation specialist for 4 years. Her colleagues respected her dedication to food safety protocols and willingness to tackle challenging cleaning tasks. Marco DeLuca, a methodical 39-year-old maintenance technician and lockout advocate, handled a separate repair nearby. Janelle Porter, an exacting 34-year-old quality inspector, conducted mid-shift contamination swabs throughout the area. Omar Wells, a schedule-driven 50-year-old line supervisor, coordinated sanitation cycles between batching runs. A horizontal mixer with rotating paddle shafts required thorough cleaning to remove residue from the previous batch. The equipment's guard panel had been removed during troubleshooting and awaited reinstallation after cleaning. This created an open access point to the mixer's internal mechanisms. The written lockout procedure was posted at the control panel, but documentation had not been completed when cleaning began. The mixer's jog mode remained active from prior maintenance checks, with a status light indicating power was available at the drive motor. Communication between sanitation and maintenance teams remained informal without formal coordination of energy isolation. No lockout device had been applied at the electrical disconnect, leaving the equipment energized during cleaning operations. Tools and cleaning rags were positioned at the open hopper for easy access. The emergency stop button functioned properly during testing, but was not treated as adequate energy isolation for personnel protection during maintenance activities. Holly positioned herself on a step stool to gain access to the mixer chamber interior. She reached into the confined space to wipe residue from the paddle surfaces, focusing on areas requiring detailed manual cleaning to meet sanitation standards. A co-worker at the control panel initiated a brief jog cycle to reposition the paddles for better cleaning access, unaware that Holly's hand remained inside the mixer chamber. The communication breakdown proved fatal as the paddle began rotating without warning. The rotating paddle caught Holly's protective glove at a pinch point between the paddle edge and mixer housing. The inward draw occurred rapidly as her upper extremities were pulled into the rotating mechanism before the panel operator could hit the emergency stop. The machine continued coasting briefly after the stop was pressed due to rotational momentum. The paddle assembly ceased rotation within seconds, but damage had already occurred during initial contact and entanglement. Colleagues immediately activated emergency response and retrieved the trauma kit. Power was cut at the main disconnect to ensure no further equipment movement. Guards were positioned to prevent additional contact, while responders were directed to the mixing room. Clinical findings revealed catastrophic traumatic injuries to the upper extremities, with rapid blood loss that proved non-survivable. Holly was declared deceased at the scene, despite immediate emergency response efforts. Investigation identified critical failures: absence of proper lockout during sanitation, exposed moving parts during cleaning, and jog mode use without confirmed personnel clearance from hazardous areas. Corrective actions included mandatory lockout with group locks for sanitation activities, interlock systems disabling jog mode when guards are removed, and two-person verification for energy isolation. Additional controls included visual hands-clear beacons at control panels, lock caddies at each line, and enhanced communication protocols between maintenance and sanitation teams. Training emphasized zero energy state verification and dangers of equipment coast-to-stop periods that can cause injury even after emergency stops are activated. It was October 12, 2016, when 38-year-old Garrett Cole arrived at the commercial building's rooftop electrical room to address a critical power issue. An experienced electrical technician with 12 years in the field, Garrett was known for his methodical troubleshooting approach and ability to diagnose complex electrical problems. The morning brought reports of thermal anomalies detected during a routine infrared scan of a breaker feeding rooftop HVAC equipment. Tenant operations created pressure to minimize service interruptions, shifting the scope to energized diagnostics. Nina Alvarez, an observant 20-year-old electrical apprentice, assisted with tools and documentation. Brent O'Keefe, a pragmatic 47-year-old facility manager, had requested minimal service disruption. Isaiah Kent, a cooperative 32-year-old HVAC technician, waited for power verification. The work environment presented several hazardous conditions. Arc-rated personal protective equipment was only partially utilized. Garrett wore a face shield and protective jacket, but had not donned voltage-rated gloves, despite their availability nearby. The dead front cover had been removed from the 480-volt electrical panel, exposing energized conductors. Labeling on the conductors was worn and partially mismatched to the circuit schedule, creating confusion about which circuits corresponded to specific equipment. A digital multimeter with worn probe insulation was selected for voltage measurements. Spare test leads with proper insulation were available, but were not swapped in before beginning diagnostic work. The rooftop environment showed high ambient humidity. Garrett began probing a line-side lug to verify voltage readings. The worn probe insulation failed during contact, and the probe slipped, making contact with an adjacent phase lug in the confined panel space. A phase-to-phase electrical fault initiated immediately. An intense arc flash occurred, producing bright plasma, extreme heat, and a pressure wave that expelled from the panel opening. The electrical discharge created superficial charring on the dead front panel. Garrett sustained severe thermal burns to his hands and face from the arc flash energy. Simultaneously, he experienced an electrical shock with current path across his upper body as the fault current sought ground. The electrical trauma caused him to fall backward onto the concrete floor. Nina immediately pulled him clear using his protective jacket collar and activated the emergency stop for the room's electrical systems. An emergency call was placed to emergency services. An automated external defibrillator was retrieved from the hallway cabinet and applied according to the device's prompts. CPR and defibrillation were initiated while awaiting medical response. Facility staff isolated upstream electrical power to the affected panel and restricted rooftop access to emergency responders only. The electrical room was secured to prevent additional personnel from entering the hazardous area. Emergency medical services transported Garrett to the trauma center, but clinical findings revealed fatal electrocution with associated third-degree burns and cardiac arrhythmia consistent with ventricular fibrillation. The electrical shock had disrupted normal heart rhythm. The investigation cited multiple contributing factors: energized work without proper justification, inadequate personal protective equipment selection, and use of degraded test equipment with compromised insulation. Corrective measures included a strict de-energize unless infeasible policy with documented justification requirements. Glove and test lead inspection checklists became mandatory before electrical work. Panel labeling was updated with accurate circuit identification. Arc flash boundary enforcement procedures were established with proper PPE requirements. Work scheduling was adjusted to allow planned outages with tenant notification and temporary power arrangements. Annual electrical safety qualifications were instituted for energized diagnostic work, with supervisor approval gates. It was July 23, 2018, when 33-year-old Danielle Foster responded to urgent reports of a pump blockage at the municipal wastewater lift station. An experienced maintenance technician with 8 years in utilities, Danielle was known for her quick problem-solving abilities and dedication to preventing service disruptions. The afternoon brought critical reports of pump blockage threatening upstream backups into a residential neighborhood. Time pressure mounted as complaints from affected residents increased, demanding immediate attention to prevent sewage overflows. Sam Rivera, an organized 29-year-old maintenance helper, was on hand to provide confined space support. Colleen Myers, an efficient 41-year-old contractor, coordinated blockage removal downstream. Dana Kim, a calm 36-year-old dispatcher, managed emergency calls from operations. Several equipment deficiencies created dangerous conditions. The portable ventilation blower was in the truck with a maintenance note indicating intermittent operation and no replacement obtained. The multi-gas atmospheric monitor displayed a low battery indicator, while the charging cradle was occupied by another crew's equipment. The retrieval tripod and winch were available near the truck, but remained unrigged during initial assessment. A confined space permit form was started but left incomplete, with attendant and entrant roles not formally assigned. The odor of sewage was particularly strong at the access hatch. Wind direction carried hazardous vapors directly toward the entry point, concentrating dangerous gases around the confined space entrance. Danielle opened the access hatch and descended the fixed ladder with the gas detector clipped to her chest. The detector functioned despite the low battery warning, providing some atmospheric monitoring capability. The gas detector alarm activated shortly after entry into the below-grade wet well. Alarm tones were audible to surface personnel, but specific gas concentration readings were not communicated to the support team above. Within moments of reaching the lower ladder rungs, Danielle lost normal posture and became motionless while positioned on the ladder. The rapid onset suggested exposure to high concentrations of hydrogen sulfide gas. Sam moved to assist without donning respiratory protection. He began descending but quickly retreated while coughing as continuous alarm tones indicated dangerous atmospheric conditions persisted. Colleen called emergency services and directed bystanders away from the hazardous area. The retrieval tripod was moved into position, but had not been rigged with the winch system for emergency extraction. Fire department rescue personnel arrived with self-contained breathing apparatus. A trained rescuer entered the space, attached the winch line to Danielle's harness, and completed vertical extraction to the surface. Emergency responders immediately initiated high-flow oxygen and advanced life support protocols. The ventilation blower was connected to purge dangerous gases, with atmospheric readings gradually returning to safe levels. Clinical findings revealed fatal hydrogen sulfide poisoning, with rapid respiratory paralysis and resultant severe hypoxia. High gas concentrations caused immediate incapacitation and respiratory failure that proved non-survivable despite prompt rescue efforts. Investigation identified critical failures: incomplete permit documentation, lack of continuous atmospheric monitoring with confirmed safe readings, and attempted rescue without proper respiratory protection. Corrective measures included mandatory continuous ventilation before entry, fully charged detectors with bump testing, tripod pre-rigging before opening spaces, and designated attendant roles with radio communication. Additional controls included hydrogen sulfide training, rescue practice with mannequins, and mandatory supervisor sign-off before confined space entry. Nearby stations underwent safety audits for similar deficiencies. Thanks for watching. Want to watch more? Click on your screen now.